So this story keeps getting wilder and wilder. So now we found out that allegedly Tyler Robinson was living in a relationship with transgender male. So we're gonna check this clip and listen to what is currently being said out there. Obviously, like none of this stuff has been confirmed as yet. But you know what I'm saying, like there's been some reports on what's happening. So let's listen to this clip on what he says about who the alleged boyfriend of Tyler Robinson is or transgender partner. Let's listen to the clip.
Several outlets identify Lance Twiggs, 22, as Tyler Robinson's roommate in St. George, Utah. Some reports additionally describe Robinson as living with a transgender partner. However, authorities have not officially confirmed that identity publicly. The Post-Millennial association with Tyler Robinson, multiple reports say Twiggs cooperated with investigators and provided messages, e.g. Discord texts, that helped the FBI build its case after the killing of Charlie Kirk. Again, the most specific claims about the nature of the relationship come from tabloids and secondary outlets. Official briefings so far have not named the partner. New York Post, what's officially confirmed, law enforcement and major outlets confirm Robinson's arrest and the investigation details, weapon, inscriptions on casings, etc., but do not publicly name the partner roommate in their formal statements. Treat the Lance Twiggs equals partner detail as unconfirmed for now.
Okay, so nothing has been confirmed as yet, as that clip, basically stated, right? So I'm waiting for the updates just to see exactly what's happening if the guy was actually that, right? But you know what I'm saying, there's been Fox News, I guess, Daily Mail that has said it, and then I guess maybe the New York Post has also posted something about the situation. Now we're going to listen to one of the other guys that's actually covering this story. His name is Quatering. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know who it is, you can sub to his channel on YouTube, or you can just, type his name and you see, the full video. So I'm just going to put a few clips that I line up, in succession as he talks about the situation, right? Then I'll come back and I'll give my thoughts on this new development. So let's check out the clips from the ordering and I'll come back.
Everybody, perhaps the biggest break in the story, in Charlie Kirk's story yet. And the whole thing is bonkers. The left has been completely gaslighting, getting viral threads on X saying that, Charlie Kirk's assassin was right wing. Oh, he was this, that, and the other thing. They even got the homepage of X to state that he was MAGA. Well, guess what? It turns out that MAGA, far right conservative Tyler was living with a transgender partner. That very same transgender partner was the one that he told to go pick up his rifle. I told you he wasn't working alone, and he wasn't. Tyler Robinson was radicalized by a trans individual. There can be no more denying it. Thank goodness for the Discord, by the way. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, lived with a transgender partner. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, was living with a transgender partner who was in the process of transitioning from male to female. So he's living with a biological male who was pretending to be female. Tyler Robinson was gay. Law enforcement official has now confirmed this. People say this is nothing new. It absolutely is new. Well, in one way, it's not new at all, because these people have been taking the lives of conservatives for the past 5 years. They've been going into our churches and taking our lives. They've been going into our schools and taking our children's lives. But this completely destroys the left's narrative. This is now the third trans radical in a row. The individual who is yet to be identified by authorities is now fully cooperating with the FBI as an investigation into the fatal incident that took Charlie Kirk from us. The relationship was first reported by Fox News' Brooke Singman. Text messages and other communications that the transgender individual traded with Robinson helped the feds nab the accused assassin. I'm telling you, this woman, this biological man, this trans individual, his boyfriend, knew and was also involved in planning it. That is my opinion. You want to know why I've come to that conclusion? Because I said I was right. Ooh, I was so right. I did a video, I think, on my second channel, the Jeremy Hambley channel, but I also tweeted this. The feds put out that he had worked alone, but they wanted us to believe that he worked alone. All the while, they admitted that he had texted his roommate to go pick up the weapon. You would not text somebody to go pick up the weapon you used to assassinate Charlie Kirk if they didn't know you were going to do it and if they didn't approve of it. Imagine you pull off this crime. And on what planet on earth would you text some rando, hey, go cover up this horrible crime for me? You wouldn't do that. You would text somebody who was in on it or knew you were going to do it and supported it. Does anybody disagree with me on that? Federal and state authorities revealed at Friday press conference that a, quote, roommate was cooperating with the investigation, revealed communications from a contact named Tyler that described the bullet casings to those found at the scene. The roommate was his boyfriend, and he knew. It's strange, it's strange how everybody who saw that initial report, including myself, knew that they were in on it. They knew they were in on it. They probably helped him plan it. They encouraged him to do it. There is no doubt in my mind. Hey, go pick up my rifle, but you're definitely not a part of this planning. Give me a flipping break. Give me a break. Go pick up my rifle. No question about, hey, why is there a rifle? Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's up with this? Hey, I'm going to call the police. That never happened. The police showed up at their house after the dad identified him, and then they showed the Discord messages. And only then. Trying to keep themselves out of prison. Do you know how many transgender Americans have been these mass lunatics over the past 10 years? Asked attendee Hunter Kozak. Too many, Kirk responded. Do you know how many of these people have been in America over the last 10 years? He followed up. Counting or not counting gang violence, the Turning Point USA founder sought to clarify. And that is when he was shot. Matt Walsh commenting, I've independently confirmed that Charlie Kirk's assassin did, in fact, have a trans boyfriend. This is LGBTQ extremism. A lot more will be revealed soon. Quote, the far-right narrative is absolute bull, not even close to true. Don't fall for it. We have almost every major American news outlet reporting this. We know that the individual that did what they did at the Minneapolis church was transgender. We know that the individual that did what they did at the Nashville school was transgender. We know that the individual that was at that theme park was non-binary or transgender. I mean, it has been nearly exclusively from that community. Now, is it just because they're trans? No. They are trans, therefore they have a tough time. They have probably other issues mentally. We know that gender dysphoria is a mental illness that is not up for debate. But we also know that this community, in my opinion, has been specifically targeted over the past 10 years to radicalize.
Okay, so now that we've heard from the Quatering, I just went on X just to see like what was happening, right? And then I saw this tweet from the guy that, I personally don't like, Mark Lamont Hill himself. So, like later on, I'm saying he was talking about something on Joe Budden's podcast, saying like Charlie Kirk put him on a watch list or whatever. I'm saying? So I'll put some of that, clips like later on so you can actually hear what he's talking about. But if you look at the tweet that he posted on X, right? He just goes like an update right now. And yesterday he was saying that it was a cisgender white male that had done this particular thing. So that definitely aged like old milk. So I'll just caution like people like to just, take your time and see exactly what's happening right now. So obviously we know that this guy has been cooperating with the officers of the FBI, telling them what he thinks or whatever. So we'll see like more details obviously as the news unfolds, right? So this thing just keeps on getting more and more. And obviously, some people think that he was working with an accomplice. And we know that, he was possibly radicalized when he went to university or whatever. Now, as a person that is a member of, a church, right? There are some members that, LGBTQIA or whatever, right? That are, part of church. But, the way that they handle the situation is very different from the other LGBTQ people that are outside. So for the most part, like we understand that, you know what I'm saying, like when you come on earth, you are given, you know, specific weaknesses that you have to overcome. Now, if you look at Revelations, it basically says that he who overcomes shall inherit from the Father. So in church, like most of these individuals, you know, they understand this and they understand that, okay, you know, your lustful desires or like some of your desires that you have on earth are, you know, obstacles that you're supposed to overcome. So what they do is they get married to a woman, or if they're female, obviously get married to a male, and then they have children because that is what our purpose is here on earth. We're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. Now, obviously, if you go on these other relationships, you're not going to, you know what I'm saying, have children, right? Because like it's impossible for a female and a female to actually have kids through copulation, right? You have to go through other means for them to get pregnant. Same thing if it's a male, it's two guys that are, you know, been gay or whatever. If they get into a relationship, it's impossible, right, for them to have a kid. They would have to adopt a child for them to have them. So that goes against what you want, right? So, you know what I'm saying? So they take, you know, the responsibility to try and follow God as best as they can by living the righteous way, right? The way that God intended for man and women to live. Now, when it comes to this guy, they say like, okay, it was obviously like LDS or Mormon or whatever. I have had no confirmation of that, but obviously, like in Utah, there's a lot of Mormons, right? Or you know, LDS people. We don't know for sure, right? But yeah, if he was, you know, that, so obviously, you know, when it comes to the gospel, he moved away from it, right? He decided to take on a different path and then decided to take matters into his own hands and, you know, unalike Charlie Kirk, which was a bad decision because you're not supposed to murder. So if you are a Christian and then you allegedly a Christian and then you do things that are unchristian, like are you still a Christian? I don't think so, right? I think you are obviously not a Christian, so you cannot say that the guy was a Christian. Obviously, if this turns out to be true that he was living, you know, with you know, his boyfriend or whatever, or who was transitioning to be a female, then obviously he's also transgressing, you know, I mean, the laws of God. So that also doesn't make him a Christian, right? So we'll see what happens with the story and we'll see how it evolves. But my number one concern right now is this is it's looking very bad for, you know, the LGBTQ plus community, right? Because again, there's been a lot of, you know, violence that's been coming from that side, and I'm not going to say that it was, you know, gay people that were doing it, but it's mostly now on the trans side of things where, you know, most of these things were happening. So I watched a clip before of the guy that was debating Charlie Kirk, and he asked him, you know, what I'm saying, how many transgender shootings have occurred in, you know, in North America, and it was apparently the number was supposed to be 5, right? That may be true, right, when you talk about transgenders, but if we're talking about, you know, mentally ill people that have gone and shot up schools and have, you know, done all these heinous things, there's a lot. And I believe that, you know what I'm saying, this transgenderism obviously is a mental illness. And I would employ people to, you know, have some empathy towards people. Let's figure out how to help them, not to prevent like normal processes like, you know, puberty, right? Like this is what happens when you take advantage of society. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to fix something in the wrong way, right? You're trying to profit off of humanity and then you turning these people into this. And like most people will say, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, transgenders are non-violent. I don't think that's actually true because I had experience of living with somebody that was, you know, going through the transition, right? So she was a female who believed she was male, right? So when she went through this process, she was like 18, 19 years old, and she had, you know, a troubled upbringing, right? I don't know if she was essay abused when she was younger, but that's what I got from, you know, the way she was talking. She never actually mentioned it, but she was just basically saying that she didn't like being a woman because women were taken advantage of. So she thought that if she was going to be a male, you know, less stuff was going to happen to her. But obviously, you know, that's not true, right? Especially she was like, you know, like 4'11", right? When it comes to guys, there's a lot of violence that happens, right? So like with guys, especially if you haven't grown up as one, you're not going to understand the dynamics. You can't speak the same way that you speak as a female to a guy, right? Because like in most cases, if you disrespect a guy, they'll respond in a violent manner, right? So by her transitioning to a male, those are some of the realities that she would have to face. And you know what I'm saying, when she was going through this transition, she was in TRT, right? Was given that. And when she was given this TRT, she had left the house I was living in. She had moved out, and then she came back like later on because she was having a relationship with one of these guys that was bisexual, right? So this individual used to live in my basement, and when she came back, they had an argument or whatever, and she got in such a fierce rage that she destroyed one of my windows, and then I had to call the cops. You know what I mean, just to explain the situation. So when the cop came and then asked me, you know, like who did the thing, I told the cop who the person was, and I said like, okay, there's an issue here because like one of the guys actually chased her and he almost beat her up for breaking the window. And he wanted me to press charges, or he told me like I could press charges on this person. I didn't want to do that because then she would have to go to jail, and then she would have had to be in a male jail, and she had a vagina. Like, you know what I'm saying? So if she ended up going to jail as a female, what was going to happen to her there? It was going to be worse than whatever experience that she had as a kid. So I didn't want to press charges. I didn't press charges. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to live it as it is. She never came back again. But before she started transitioning, I told her to wait until she was 27 because the way she felt at 18 or 19 is not the same way that she's going to feel when she's like 27, when her brain is hopefully fully developed, right? And she didn't look like she had a mental issue, but it was just because of the things that she had been taught in school, you know, that she can, you know, change the gender and whatnot, right? So it's like, okay, just wait until your mind is fully developed when you have become a full adult, and then you can understand the consequences of the situation. Obviously, she didn't listen. She went on the TRT, and I told her, like, as a guy who used to work out a lot, I used to lift weights, and I did take, you know what I mean, like some test boosters, right? So when you take those things, like they do increase your rate because when you have a lot of, you know, that in your system, it does change your mind. So it takes time for you to adapt to it to become more calm. But if you're a male, obviously you've grown up with, you know, those hormones in your system. So like it's easy to adapt to those things. But if you're female, it's harder to adapt. So again, this explains her rage incident. And there was also another individual that I work with that had a trans person in their family. Now, this particular person, it was female, obviously, again, transitioning to male, went on TRT, and she just got way more violent as she took this, right? To the point that one day there was a guy that was walking underneath her. She used to live in an apartment. I think it was like a 12-story building, whatever. She had a vase that was sitting by the window, and she just saw a guy that was walking down. She got into a rage, and she just threw this vase trying to hit the person that was down there. Fortunately, she missed, right? The guy didn't realize, you know, what happened. He just saw something that fell. And then she later confessed to her sister, who was this guy's, you know, wife, of what had happened. So then he came and told me. So when it comes to this thing, I do believe it is a mental issue. I think these people do need help. They need the appropriate help. Trying to force people to, you know what I'm saying, for us to bend the knee to, you know, say that, you know, they're male or female, it's creating a huge issue in society. Now, what is happening is like most people are being less empathetic towards, you know, this people's situation. So you've made the situation worse by, you know, trying to limit free speech, right? And do all these things. Now, when this thing happens with another trans-related or LGBTQI-related incident, how are people going to feel towards the LGBTQIA? So there's a problem that is occurring here. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, cooler heads prevail. We can understand that we need to lead with love, not with violence, and be more empathetic towards individuals and provide the right kind of help. Not the stuff that has been done with farmer, transitioning and all this stuff, acting like the stuff is going to solve the problem. Obviously, it's not solving the problem. It's making the things much worse, right? So what do you guys think about the situation? Do you think, I'm saying this is LGBTQI related? Do you think like he was radicalized by, what happened in school? Did he, unlike Charlie Kirk because he actually had a boyfriend that was, LGBTQIA that was transitioning to a female and took it upon himself because he definitely showed Charlie Kirk the moment that he talked about the transgender thing. Obviously, after that, he says, gang violence or whatever, and then he gets unalived right after that. So yeah, man. Obviously, all these people that were claiming that the person is not of the LGBT community, and they were claiming that he is right wing. Clearly, he's not. He was left wing. So all the stuff has been debunked, right? So what are you guys going to say now? What are the Democrats going to say? Because you guys are the ones that have been embracing this ideology a lot. We saw, like, what happened when Black chick, I forget what her name is, when she got on the podium and she was like, we are fighting for you, we will fight for you. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff has had issues, in society. But yeah, man, I'm going to leave the, conversation right here. If you have something that you want to say, just put it in the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next video. All right.